Hi, this is the CTB covering the basics video for ToK Essay number 1, November 24. Now, if you already understand what is meant by the responsibility to acquire knowledge, then skip this video and watch the main video for this title, linked above. Welcome to ToK Today. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about ways to understand the responsibility to acquire knowledge. If you're writing this essay and you want detailed, structured help to get a high score, then be sure to pick up the ToK Today essay guidance notes from the ToK Today website, link in the video description. So, in this video, I'm just covering the basics for this essay title. I'm not going to answer the title, that's in the main video. This video, the CTB video, assumes that you have very little understanding of what the main terms in the prescribed title actually mean. So let's start with what acquiring knowledge could mean. The acquisition of knowledge can be thought of in many different ways, and it can be thought of in many different ways in terms of the way that knowledge is collected, the many ways in which the knower comes to know things. And these include formal learning, informal learning, direct experience, and indirect experience, and so on and so on. For example, I know the economic model of supply and demand because my economics teacher taught me it. That's formal learning. I know that Taylor Swift is very popular because I hear lots of people talking about her. That's informal learning. I know that Rio de Janeiro is a lively city because I've been there. That's direct experience. And I know that Lima has great restaurants because I've heard people describing them. That's indirect experience, and so forth and so forth. Now, these are all examples of the acquisition of knowledge. What is important that the focus in this essay is on the knower rather than on the knowledge producer, and it's on the way that knowledge is acquired rather than the way that knowledge is produced. Which is not to say that you can't talk about the way that knowledge is produced and the knowledge producer. It's just that you can only talk about it in terms of the knower acquiring knowledge. We might get to those ideas later on. Before we move on to look at what could be meant by the responsibility to acquire knowledge in the essay title, please could I ask you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's free for you to do and it helps me out enormously. It's what economists call a positive externality or an external benefit. And we're all into positive externalities, so you know what to do. Thank you. Now, the responsibility to acquire knowledge can be thought about in 3 main ways, and I'm going to run through each of those ways in turn. So the first way is a sort of ethical and practical responsibility towards ourselves as knowers to test and verify our own knowledge. And we could argue that we all have responsibility to acquire as much knowledge and the best knowledge that is available to us in order to ensure that we're always operating from the best knowledge available. Now, the best knowledge might be the most reliable knowledge, it might be the most objective knowledge, it might be the most true knowledge. It all depends on what you need knowledge for. However, the responsibility to acquire knowledge for self minimizes the mistakes and poor decisions or choices that we would make. So this responsibility is a responsibility to ourselves, to live our best lives, as some people might say. Okay, the second way is a sort of ethical and practical responsibility towards others to ensure that we're interacting with them on the basis of the most reliable evidence available. Some people might use the word truth here, but I avoid that value-laden term. Now, this approach to the responsibility to acquire knowledge places more emphasis on the knower as a member of a range of knowledge communities. And here we propose that all knowers have responsibilities to all members of their knowledge communities to interact with them on the basis of the best knowledge available. And this knowledge, again, could be the most honest knowledge, the most ethical knowledge, the most valid knowledge, and the most objective knowledge. Again, it all just depends upon the purposes for acquiring and using knowledge. But this approach is about responsibility to each other rather than just responsibility to self. The third and final sort of broad approach to responsibility to acquire knowledge is an ethical responsibility to the general pool of knowledge in the world. Now, as IB learners, you'll understand that the values and principles underpinning the idea that we are global citizens, and as such we have responsibilities to try to improve the world in which we live. One of the ways that we can do this is to try to acquire knowledge about this world. Now, this is a responsibility to our global community and to our planet. Now, we could question whether we actually have a responsibility to acquire knowledge at all. You may think it comes down to personal preference. You might think, well, I don't have a responsibility to acquire knowledge, and that possibly could make an interesting evaluation point. But don't base a claim around this idea, because it would then prevent you from answering the main question, which is how does it vary by AOK? Now remember, in this video, we're just looking at what could be meant by the responsibility to acquire knowledge. We're not actually answering the question of whether it varies according to area of knowledge, and so on and so on. For help with answering the actual question, watch the main video for this essay title, linked above, and for even more help, check out the ToK Today essay guidance notes. They have everything in them you need to get a great score in the ToK essay. Remember, please, to hit like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you on the next video. Stay ToKtastic, my friends.